time aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. We've got a full show today, and I don't know that we're going to get through everything, but we're going to talk a little bit about a question from our Slack community in regards to Vienna. We've got our opinions on the Southwest Dutch roll incident, which was scary as could be. We're going to field a listener question about the unfortunate side effects of phantom inventory, a little bit about small luxury hotels of the world and the baby steps on their Hilton integration. And if there's enough time, we may touch a little bit on this new plan for United to grow out of Narita with 737s and triumphant return to the seat after a Disney New York stopover. Mr. Kerr has replaced Julian, so your normal breakfast cereal that was replaced by Julian is now replaced with the full box of Wheaties. Mr. Kerr, welcome back.
I'd like to say I regained my spot after we've had some substantial contract negotiations over the last 72 hours. I'm happy to regain my spot after a very, very hot weekend in Orlando last weekend, breaking all kinds of records that the National Weather Service has never seen before. Man, it was freaking hot. Good to be back.
It's good to have you back. There are no guaranteed payments in the contract, but you are
I thought we weren't going to air that dirty laundry out here, but we can go through the full terms if you want. It's
full terms, 600% humidity and 6:55 a.m. wake-up calls to make sure you could buy Genie Plus. Those are the full terms of your absence from the show.
I did not think that it was possible to drink 8 24-ounce bottles of water without having to use the restroom, but by God, we did it. That's how hot it was. Like, holy moly, man. It was something else. That led to the shower at the club MCO, which is just an American experience that every listener of this podcast needs to have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but we're going in late June, and I'm saying to my son, like, look, we're not going to be able to do a full day, and I don't think he remembers the last time we went in the summer. It was... Oh gosh, we've done 2 summer trips, and both of them have been downright miserable. It's a rough time to be down there.
You cannot do full days. It's impossible. It was this week, as of recording here, it was like 18 degrees cooler, like after the day we left. But I mean, it was 104, 107 heat index. You're out there trying to walk across one of the parks. You just have to go air conditioned to air conditioned. You can't keep the kids out in the direct sun. We don't stand in any lines that are in the direct sun. Like, you can't do it, man. Somebody's going to get sick. I went in Disney Springs for 10 minutes to see if I could find something at the store just by myself real quick. I don't remember being that hot ever, except for the time I had to work in the shipping containers at the Bahrain airport, which, let me tell you.
That would do it, yeah.
But man, it was dangerously hot. So everybody who's just out there rolling with like the little kids and the elderly folks, man, or the people who are like drinking all the booze when it's that hot outside, just don't do it, people. Just be a little smart and just go out when it's nice and cool. So besides that, man, it was a great time. We had some really cool stuff.
I like it. Do we have any Frontier Tales? I mean, I've got a full show.
We do, but I'm happy to have the return of the Frontier Tales. So,
all right, Emily, hold that thought for just a second. We need to transition. We have professional transitions here, okay? So, and I've got a soapbox to get up on too, and we're going to use that to transition.
This episode got spicy real fast.
I know. But first, for folks that are just tuning in, you can find us on YouTube if you're not watching us, Mr. Kerr and I, and make fun of each other. And if you are on YouTube, there's a button down there somewhere that says subscribe. So if you could subscribe to the show, that's super helpful to us to get discovered on YouTube as we continue to grow the channel. That would be super helpful. He is at Kerr Points on all of those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. You can email us at pizzainmotion.com with all of your questions. And if you want to text us or leave us a voicemail, we've got a text listener question coming up in a little bit. You can do that at 571-293-6659. Lastly, Mr. Kerr, I'm going to do something I don't normally do on the video podcast. I'm going to stand up. And don't worry, I'm not saluting you, but as my daughter graduated from high school, I ordered something special to commemorate. And this is the shirt that they made for the final newspaper edition that they printed. So there you go.
Loudoun County newspaper, the County Chronicle, with the old school typewriter on it.
The only newspaper in the county that prints a physical newspaper to hand out. And my daughter is the editor this year, and I'm super proud of her as she goes off to school. So wearing my Loudoun County newspaper colors today. So
home of what's the mascot?
Now the captain. We were the Raiders, but it was determined that the Raiders was not diverse enough, and so we are now the captains.
What?
Let's not get into it. Let's leave it right there. We only got one soapbox an episode, and I have reserved it for this week. All right. So
No,
yeah. All right. So
no mascot is safe.
no mascot is safe. Fuzzy bunnies are where fuzzy bunnies come to die. All right. So wait for it. Here's how we're going to segue to your story. Disturbing news out of Disney World this week. It has been confirmed, and I am really, really pissed about this. It was very triggering that next week at Disney World, the Frontierland Shooting Arcade will close down, and they will turn it into a DVC lounge. And as much as I am a Disney Vacation Club member and always love a good lounge, the Frontierland Shooting Arcade has a long, deep history in my family for over 50 years of broken guns and funky sensors and all that stuff. And I still love Frontierland Shooting Arcade, and I'm super pissed that Disney's getting rid of it.
In an opening day attraction, an original opening day attraction,
Right? They got rid of the Country Bear Jamboree, and nothing was safe after that. The guns are gone next.
Thomas loves it. Every single time we walk by it, he's got to go and do it. And it's one of the very, very few things, Ed, that you can do at Disney that is free. Another
included,
activity.
not free. But I will tell you, I remember a time when it wasn't free. When I was a kid, you had to put quarters in to pay.
All the little quarter slots are still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can go and do it for no additional cost. Thomas likes it. But I don't know, man. Like, I think Summer gives me a hard time because of the Blue Powerade that I always talk about at the Epcot DVC Lounge, which is actually life-saving. When a weekend like last weekend would have been amazing. The thought of it being that hot and being able to swing in there and get some Blue Powerade just to get those electrolyte back, like, I'm okay with that. I'm sad the shooting range is gone, but
I just want you to know they sell Powerade throughout the park.
Yeah, only $4.59 for a 16-ounce bottle, or because I already gave them all my money for the daggum DVC points, I can go get all the Blue Powerade I want at the DVC Lounge. So,
look, if they want to get rid of one of the gift shops around Hall of Presidents and put it in DVC Lounge, I'm all for it.
That's a revenue maker, man. That's not going anywhere. They're not getting rid of anything that makes revenue.
Well, then put the quarter slots back. Those guns will make just
tell me how many Americans walk around with quarters in their pockets today.
It's like 7
or cash. I don't even carry cash anymore.
Hopefully you've seen the transition. We transitioned from Frontierland to Frontier Tales. Cue the music, Jeremiah.
Just like that has been the professional podcaster that he is. It's quite a happy Frontier tale, but still a little bit of comedy this time. So I was in New York City, and the family was going to fly down from Atlanta to meet me in Orlando. And because they're flying from Atlanta, and because we did the Frontier status match, it is $39 per person to fly in. So I'm not paying whatever Delta wanted. So a little bit of a special trip this time on Frontier. And if you haven't checked out my Instagram, please go see it. We were able to take my niece with us to Disneyland last weekend. And this was her very first plane flight ever in her life, and she is 10 years old. And it was on Frontier Airlines, and Emily did a great job. I didn't know she was going to film takeoff, and my niece's reaction when the plane starts going fast and takes off is just really fantastic, and I have the video posted on my Instagram. And that's a lifelong memory, and Frontier responded in the comments and said, "This is awesome, can we use it for..." And, what a great lifelong Frontier memory that my niece is going to have for the rest of her life. It's the first plane flight. My uncle and aunt flew me from Atlanta to Orlando on Frontier Airlines. So that was amazing lifelong memory, fantastic. And appreciate, Frontier making that happen for family again. Like, that's why we fly Frontier. It's $39 for a lifelong memory, and you get from A to B, and they were on time, and it was a great, easy flight. The funny part, though, is Emily texted me during the boarding process. She's just naturally, this is my wife, Emily, is a very naturally nervous and anxious person. And specifically during plane flights, she by no means was like a scared flyer, but she will get like, hey, when things aren't the way that they usually are, she'll get a little bit anxious about it. And the thing that happens with Frontier almost every single time that I just has me cackling a little bit is because people don't buy all of their seats because it's a paid seat assignment. So if you don't pay for your seat ahead of time, at the time that you check in, they give you a random seat assignment. This apparently just creates mass confusion every single boarding where people are trying to jockey to get seats together who didn't pay for seats, and everybody's pleading their case up at the ticket counter. And every single boarding process in the end turns into 3 gate agents from Frontier coming on and trying to find seats for last minute people and trying to accommodate people who have to sit together. And it just always turns into chaos during the boarding because nobody paid for their seats ahead of time. And then he's like, I just don't understand how this happens every time. And now there's 4 employees up there trying to find seats. And then they told some people to get off, and then some people get back on. And Emily's just like, is this normal? Is this okay? People shouldn't be getting on and off the plane during the boarding process. And I was like, it's okay. This is why it happens. And sure enough, the flight coming down there was completely fine. But yeah, please go check out that video my niece sent. It's a great reminder of, how taken. You can see my daughter Mary is just there in the foreground of the video, just staring at her iPad, like, ho hum, like I've done this a million times, like I don't care. And I was like, oh wow, we gotta. So actually, it was great on the flight home. I actually made the kids put their iPads away and talk to Kinsley during landing about what was happening, and then Kinsley was like holding on to both of them because she was a little nervous, but they were all looking out the window together, and it was just a very adorable little sight to see again, and just be reminded that, hey, getting in a metal tube and going 500 miles an hour is something that perhaps we should not take for granted, which is what I think some people on the Southwest flight earlier this spring found out about.
Yeah, great transition. I just want to say, watching the video of your niece was incredible, and I think, I recorded my other podcast earlier this morning as well, and we talked about travel being aspirational, and man, like, I hope I never take it for granted. The fact that, Atlanta to Orlando, something that could, easily be described as not very aspirational from a plane standpoint, was just an incredible experience for your niece. And I love that we've been able to give both of our sets of kids this, this ability to travel the world. My daughter is headed off to college, and she absolutely intends on studying abroad for a semester. And it's like, wow, like I can't even imagine what it would be like. I know you lived overseas at much younger ages. I never did. And I was like, what would it be like to go study abroad for 3 or 4 months to travel the world? And, as a daughter who has some anxiety, she feels comfortable traveling enough that she'd go to a foreign country for 3 or 4 months and be okay with it. So travel's an awesome thing, and I'm glad that your niece is officially on the board.
She is. She walked in. We stayed at Port Orleans Riverside, and she walked in the lobby and looked over at Mary and was like, "This is the nicest hotel I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yeah,
we do need to calibrate with her.
Yeah, that's right. It is. That's awesome."
All right. Well, before we talk Southwest and that Dutch roll, let's pay a little homage to our sponsors. Thrifty Traveler is our sponsor this week, and I actually have a pretty interesting announcement. We're gonna get to that in 1 second. But if you want to sign up for an annual subscription, the code GO10 will get that done for you. You get $10 off your first year annual subscription for Thrifty Traveler Premium. They had 55,000-mile one-way business class flights on Turkish again.
About to say, this was not Stage Man, but I used that this morning, so I got the alert because Atlanta to Istanbul for 55,000 Amex points through Avianca, all over at 3 seats. So I have me and the kids' seats on hold right now. I'll speak Europe next winter. I already got the flights.
I've been so busy with back-to-back-to-back calls, but I desperately want to book something because I've booked 3 trips to Istanbul and still, other than a layover of 17 hours or something like that, I've never really gotten to experience the city. And so I'm desperately want to do that. But the big news is that they also have announced their new hotel alert service. And we're going to have Kyle Potter on to talk about it here in just a couple weeks. But you can get hotel point alerts for Hilton, Hyatt, ISG, Marriott, and they're going to be offering award alert inventory for properties both domestic and internationally, as well as luxury properties and all-inclusive resorts. So new service for them, something we haven't had a chance to test yet, but I think it should be interesting to see what this looks like. I think you and I both know there are more than a handful of really great properties out there where your timing has to be really good to find rooms. And there are a handful of tools out there that will help you do that, and Thrifty Traveler seems to be adding to the mix there.
Yeah, I see the most value here in the things we aren't familiar with yet. So that's Mr. and Miss Smith availability for Hyatt. I haven't studied it enough yet, so if I could just go set an alert on some specific interesting hotels. Same for small luxury hotels with Hilton. I have no idea what that's actually going to look like until they roll more and more of these out and we study the availability patterns.
Which we'll talk a little bit about today.
Yeah. But if I don't have to sit there and do hundreds and hundreds of award searches like we did in the past, and I can just set alerts, then count me in, man. I'm all about it. So excited to see this new development from the team over there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same. I can't tell you how many times I've done dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of searches. I remember, Grand Hyatt Kauai when we went to Hawaii last year. I burned a lot of brain cells searching for airport availability.
You burned a lot of Hyatt points, if memory serves correct, as well. For
I did that. I did a lot. The logic of Kuyula did drain my account pretty well. Yep. All right. So, do you want to tee up this story about the Southwest flight and what a Dutch roll actually is? By the way, I after having read the description of this, because I didn't know the term off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure I would yak.
Yeah, one of my pilot buddies here in the neighborhood, since I live just south of the Atlanta airport, hang out with a lot of Delta pilots. He texted me about this because he knows I stay pretty up to date. And he said, "Hey, did you see the Southwest plane that went through the Dutch roll?" And I'd seen the headline in my RSS feed, but I hadn't had time to read about it. So I went and took a look. And this was a 2-year-old 737 MAX 8 Southwest flight taking off from Phoenix, and at 32,000 feet experienced a side-to-side uncontrolled yawing motion known as a Dutch roll while at cruising altitude. This is apparently pretty rare. It usually happens because of some malfunction with the rudder. There is a history of a few plane crashes of this going back to 1991, a United flight from Denver to Colorado Springs, where they are pretty sure, but not definitively sure, that a Dutch roll is what made the pilots lose control right upon landing. And it seems like it was so bad and the plane was going so fast that substantial tail inspection and substantial PCU, which is the power control unit that controls the rudder, they had to send it back to Everett, Washington to get it looked at. Like, I think it bent the airframe because the plane was going so fast and is not supposed to have kind of like, they describe it as like a slipstream maneuver, almost like a car that's skidding across water and kind of doing the spins on the side. Like, not supposed to have that kind of uncontrolled turning motion. Yet again, man, just another bad look for the 737 MAX 8s. You should really go look at some good YouTube videos out there that explain what a Dutch roll is, that help me get up to speed on this. Kind of hard to understand without some visuals on it, but 32,000 feet, all of a sudden you got an uncontrolled slipstream. Like, that's pretty terrifying, man. And the initial report says like G-forces up to 3.5 Gs were felt by the plane. That's something you're going to feel as a passenger and not feel very good. Pretty scary stuff, man.
Yet another reminder. Always have the seatbelt on.
Yeah, just wear your seatbelt. We asked a lot. I've been asking a lot of people this question lately, based off the Singapore Airlines 777 extreme turbulence event that we saw about a month ago. Again, I can't remember the last time I was on a plane where if I'm not in the lavatory, I don't have my seatbelt on. That's just not even a thought anymore, because you never know, like, when you're just going to hit a crazy bump and go up into the ceiling. So I asked a lot of people, like, do you wear your seatbelt? And a lot of people have been like, I don't even think about it. Like, I probably don't wear my seatbelt. I'm like, wear that seatbelt.
Interesting answer, because I would imagine that the answer to this question is sort of like when you ask people if they're a good driver or not. Like, nobody says, "Oh no, I'm a bad driver." Like, if
that's what
is above average driver. Of course, I'm above average driver. Like,
it's surprising how many people have been like, "Yeah, I don't wear my seatbelt." Like, or I'm on a plane and usually some like old gruff guy, like, as soon as that seatbelt light goes off, they like reach out and grab and throw their belt off and lean back. I'm like, you didn't even know your seatbelt was on. Why did you take it off?
In fairness, you're only traveling 10 times faster than you would be in a car. So what could possibly go wrong if something were to happen?
Lesson of the day is we're going to, continue to follow this story. You can go read the preliminary report out right now. Actually, I should have read this again before, because it was aircraft experienced a Dutch roll, regained control, and post-flight inspection revealed damage to the standby PCU. So the standby power control unit, that's 175 people on board and 6 crew. No injuries, but
I'm surprised there were no injuries with those sort of G's. I mean, all you need is one person without a seatbelt to get 2, 3, 4 people hurt when that body goes flying.
I wonder what it would be like on board to feel 3.5 Gs unexpectedly at cruise altitude. That would be like, I don't wonder that as much as you do. Well, I feel like a regular flyer, you could immediately know, hey, something here is
you
very
would know
unusual.
Something. Yeah, you would know something is wrong. Yeah, that would be noticeable. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about SLH, and then I want to chew through a Slack question and a listener question. So there are just a handful of properties that have been brought live to the Hilton website, and for points availability, for SLH hotels. For a bit of history here, SLH was part of Hyatt, and they had integrated hundreds of SLH properties into the Hyatt award booking engine, and that process has begun with Hilton. And similar to Hyatt, they're moving at a very gradual pace. They released just 3 properties so far that are live. And interestingly enough, one of them is a property that both you and I have stayed at, the Fleming's Mayfair in London. And, again, we're talking about one data point here, but I think it's an interesting data point, and one that I don't find to be overly rewarding. So this is a property that has some unique room types. As you know, they have what they call deluxe single and deluxe double rooms. And these are literally a twin
Not very
bed.
deluxe. Not very deluxe.
I like the finishes in the room, but a twin bed, and then the deluxe double is a double bed. And then they obviously have, rooms with king beds as well. I stayed in a single, and it was fine. I don't remember how many Hyatt points I paid, but I want to guess it was in the neighborhood of probably somewhere between 20 and 30,000 Hyatt points a night. Hilton has those rooms for 80,000 points a night, which I would put sort of like right in that like 3-to-1 ratio that I would expect between, say, like a Hilton and a Hyatt. The only thing is that, and I could be wrong about this, I recall that if there was availability for king rooms at the property, that those could be booked at a regular rate. They just weren't available very often. At any rate, I can say this much. The Hilton price for a king bed at 231,000 points per night is not one I would consider a good deal.
That's pretty brutal. Yeah, that's
231,000 points a night for you and your wife to be able to sleep in the same bed together. I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, I think I paid 20,000 Hyatt points per night for one of those twin rooms, and it was a shoebox. And we've had a few other folks in the Slack community who've also reported back to shoebox experience at the Fleming's Mayfair, which I've stayed in small hotel rooms before, but this was really tiny. So 80 to 231,000 Hilton points per night. It's just a no-go. It's such a good location. If you just want to go see the sights in London, you can walk right through the park to Buckingham Palace and then down and see all the cool stuff. But yeah, it's a no for me, dog.
Well, let's stay in Europe for our Slack question this week. Ethan in the Slack community asked for opinions about Vienna. And this is a place that both you and I have been to. And I'll let you go first, but definitely a place that I enjoyed visiting. What are your thoughts on Vienna as a destination for someone?
Yeah, his question was basically, is it worth it, right? If I recall what he asked. Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple of funny stories about Vienna. I'll start with the good ones first. Park Hyatt Vienna was an incredible hotel. We got
beautiful.
It was an old bank building, and the pool is the old bank vault, and we got an incredible suite upgrade there for an anniversary trip. You're right there in the thick of things that you can walk around, and you can walk to the old churches and to the Vienna Opera House, actually, where Emily, funny story number one, thought we'd bought opera tickets. We show up, we're dressed up, everybody else kind of isn't. We get to our little box up on the side seat, and it ends up that we bought tickets to an opera lecture where they just had a table up on stage and they were talking about opera. So Tweedledee and Tweedledum were up in their box up there dressed up for the opera. We're just watching a lecture that's in German. And we're like, all right, well, we messed this one up. So out we go after about 30 minutes. We're realizing there's not going to be an opera. And the second thing was we were there during a heat wave in June of 2019, and there's no air conditioning in the hotels and places of Vienna. We did a bike tour that was supposed to be a winery tour. We went to the first winery. It was so freaking hot on a bike again. And we try and ride our bike up to the next winery, and halfway through I was like, hey, I'm about to have a heat stroke. We need to go back right now and find some water. And I've never been so close to heat stroke as that day, man, that we were out there riding bikes around. It was so freaking hot, and we'd just been in Europe in the heat wave for a week with no air conditioning, and we were so dehydrated, and then we decided to go drink wine on bikes would be a good idea when we were dehydrated. It wasn't a good idea, but beautiful countryside. So I think my answer back to Ethan was, the itinerary that we did for that trip actually in a week was we flew to Munich. We did Munich. We took the train to Salzburg, and we took the train from Salzburg to Vienna, and it was just a really, really cool week-long itinerary. So if you have the opportunity to go check out Vienna, then absolutely I would do that.
Yeah, I had a similar experience for arriving there. We were in Sicily and flew to Salzburg, spent some time in Salzburg, and then took the train to Vienna from there. Nice train ride. We stayed at Park Hyatt Vienna as well. It's one of the very few hotels that I can recall where I would go back for the hotel restaurant, which typically I wouldn't do. The main breakfast restaurant was called The Bank, and they had a very interesting bar right alongside the bank as well. And there was one night we were there where the family was just tired, and we decided, well, we'll just eat here as opposed to going out somewhere interesting, and had just a really incredible high quality meal. Now, like, it's not, like super themed or anything like that, but service was great. Food was great. I was pleasantly surprised that it was not your typical hotel restaurant where you're like, okay, well, that was very forgettable. What's next? We enjoyed Vienna. There's a really nice butterfly house our kids enjoyed. I'm going to try to butcher the pronunciation, but there's something called the Haus des Meers. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but it's a tower aquarium in town. It's like 8 or 9 stories tall, and so you pay to go in. You take an elevator to the top floor, and then you walk your way down. And each floor of this is a different, marine animal, if you will. And the kids spent, almost a full day wandering around that over the course of, 6 or 7 hours. So we had a lot of fun. I think it was, if I remember correctly, the tower itself was part of one of the wars, either World War I or World War II, and had been converted to this very interesting aquarium. So I definitely would put Vienna on the list. Absolutely would put Park Hyatt Vienna on the list. I think the city is very approachable, and I would also strongly encourage you to try to fly Austrian on your way out home, because we had an incredible experience flying Austrian on the way home.
We flew Lufthansa there to Munich. I don't remember who we flew home. I just remember a very painful bus gate at Vienna to get out to whatever regional we were connecting to. I don't remember now. I just remember it was freaking hot, man. So the theme of today's show, everywhere Kerr goes, is freaking hot.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you say Vienna was hot, I mean, that's not really something they're known for.
It was one of those European heat waves that, man, it hit it. We were staying at the Westin Salzburg that didn't have air conditioning in the room, and everybody was dying in that hotel, and just kind of like a communal experience about how hot it was. I did enjoy Salzburg more than Vienna. Again, Vienna was an amazing place. You definitely should go check it out.
Salzburg more too, yeah.
But Salzburg's just a super special place.
Oh, Salzburg, great, with the river downtown and going out into the suburbs and the mountains and everything. Yeah, Salzburg is a special place, definitely. All right, we're going to do a quick Richard Kerr smash or pass on United credit cards.
I don't think that's what that means, but okay.
I'm here for you, man.
I didn't know if we were going to be busting that out. Oh, I learned Summer's kids taught me a new slang word that the youngins are using.
Oh, let's see if I know this one.
It's a pookie. Do you know what a pookie is?
I do not. Are we gonna get labeled by YouTube for this?
No, this is like somebody that you're like, they're not exactly a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but they're like somebody that you're sweet on, and they're sweet on you. So it's like, it seems to me it was in between a friend and somebody that you're dating. It was a little pookie. So I'm hanging out with the young kids. So now that we're talking about Smash or Pass and pookie on the Miles to Go podcast,
I mean, it's just an obvious segue to. So are you
what
and
happens
I
when we record on Friday?
Are you and I pookies? Is that the deal here? Are we pookies?
I mean, I think there has to be a romantic element to it, which
well, there almost is sometimes.
We weren't going to be airing all of our dirty laundry out here on the Miles to Go podcast, but no, I would not formally call you my pookie.
Boy, at the rate we're going, we can get a Tide sponsorship.
I don't keep throwing out wild cards here, man. I don't know which way.
All right, so let's do this. You'll give me a vote, a thumbs up or a thumbs down on these then. So
okay, yeah.
United Club Infinite card. Current sign-up bonus 90,000 miles after you spend $5,000 on qualifying purchases. Just to remind folks who are listening, that card has a $525 annual fee. It earns 4 miles per dollar on United purchases, 2 miles per dollar on dining, and 1 mile per dollar on everything else. Mr. Kerr, are you signing up for this card?
No, not a chance at that annual fee. Nope, not for me. Maybe if it was like 150,000 miles these days, but it would never get a dollar spend beyond the sign-up bonus, and I'm not spending that much money when you can probably get or wait around for the Explorer card or something else to give you a similar sign-up bonus for a much less annual fee. Of course, you get club access with that, but we can solve that other ways.
We can, and unless you're a 1K, you're paying more for the club membership, to buy it directly from United. So there is a quote-unquote discount if you're thinking about buying a club membership, because Premier Silver and Gold pay $650 for a club membership. In this case, you get it for the low price of $525. I'm with you on I would not grab this card unless you absolutely positively need the United Club membership for work on an ongoing basis, because ultimately you're not going to spend, or at least I hope you're not going to put anything on this card other than your United tickets, because everything else, 2 miles per dollar on dining, I would just rather you were earning some other currency. There are other cards that will give you much more than that. Amex Gold is a great example of that. And even if you just went with something like Chase Sapphire or a Bilt card and you're getting 2 miles, you're getting flexible miles. So, all right. Yeah. Next up, a United Quest card. The Quest, which I think you had the Quest at one point, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on this Quest together. 70,000 bonus miles to sign up and 500 PQPs after spending Premier qualifying points, PQPs, after spending $4,000 on purchases in the first 3 months. Card has a $250 annual fee. It earns 3 miles per dollar on a United purchase, 2 miles per dollar on dining, all other travel, and select streaming services, and 1 mile per dollar on everything else.
Yeah, two things about this card that maybe get it that were interesting. I think you get $125 in United credit per year as well, which eats half of that annual fee.
Yep.
And then the 5,000 miles twice on award ticket rebates, which makes your
I'm not sure if that's still. Yeah, I think that's still on. I think that's still a benefit. So yeah,
still on. Like those two things, worthwhile. If you get 10,000 mile discount, plus you get 125 United credit, plus you're getting 70,000 miles, and now it's $125 effectively. Becomes much more interesting. Although I think that bonus has been higher before in the past. So unless you specifically want that card, which also unlocks the additional award space, if you are a co-brand card holder, like could be potentially something that I look at. But I think I would wait until I think it got up to like 80 or 90 when I picked it up.
I thought it was 100 at launch. Yeah, I could be wrong.
Maybe 100.
It's probably never been back there since launch at 100. But you're right. Maybe it was a little bit higher. So I tend to agree with you that between the annual fee, between the annual statement credit and those discounts on award tickets, that's enough to justify continuing to have the card in your wallet. Again, not a card I want to put spend on. Common theme here. Lots of cards that you might want to keep in your wallet that you just don't want to put spending on. And last but not least, Mr. Kerr, the United Explorer card, which I have had at one point. Not sure if you have.
Oh, yeah.
60,000 bonus miles after spending $3,000 on qualifying purchases. $95 annual fee, 2 miles per dollar on United purchases, hotels that you book directly, and dining. 1 mile per dollar on everything else. Are you a buyer on this one, Mr. Kerr, or no?
No, sign-up bonus has definitely been higher than this in the past, so I am not a taker at this price point.
The other problem I have with this card specifically is, again, I don't think you'd put any spending on it. In fact, I wouldn't even put my United purchases on it at 2 miles per dollar. I'd put it on something else. So you're paying $95 for a card that doesn't offer any sort of ongoing benefits throughout the year other than the access to extra award inventory. And if you wanted that, I think, doesn't that, their United Gateway card, I feel like that might still get you access to the inventory, and that one has no annual fee.
Yeah.
So
that would be something I have to go and confirm.
Double check.
Does the Gateway card still get you? I don't think it does, because I think it's just like the Delta no annual fee doesn't get you the 15% discount.
Yeah. So. That could be true. That could be true. I haven't looked at the Gateway card in a very long time, so somebody will correct us and shout nasty words at us.
But that, I mean, back in the day, man, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it because as a 1K, you're supposed to have expanded access, I think, to award availability also. Yeah. But the co-brand card space for United used to be a big deal, and somebody's going to have to write in and tell us if it still is. That it helped a lot.
Yeah.
When you got access, I think it still does help a lot.
Yeah, I think it still does help a lot because I hear reports about that. Although they used to have a little moniker on the flights that would say United card member pricing. Yeah, and I haven't seen that since the recent spate of changes to the website, including the fact they still keep shutting me down for trying to search too many paid flights. So
still trying to use the website.
Yeah, still trying to buy airline tickets. Just something random. All right, one quick last story, and then we'll finish with our listener question. So I think we definitely thought this was coming based on comments from Hyatt at the time, but they have confirmed now that their co-brand credit cards will earn bonus points at Mr. and Mrs. Smith properties, just like they were Hyatt. So you can now earn 9 points per dollar, up to 9 points per dollar at Mr. and Mrs. Smith properties if you have one of the Hyatt credit cards. Most of those properties are out of my price range for paid stays, and I do prefer using my points when I can from all of my paid stays. But the option still exists.
Still no word on benefits, right? Like everybody used to get breakfast at small luxury hotels, but there's like even if you're globalist, there's still no benefits at Mr. and Mrs. Smith, correct?
Right, and I think that's because it's such a disparate number of benefits that the properties offered. I like at the SLH hotels, I feel like there were more guardrails in place or pipes in place for that sort of stuff, just based on the fact that they had a loyalty program. And here, these properties are just so disparate. I'm not sure we're ever going to get good information on some sort of like standardized breakfast benefit. I do think it's going to be property to property.
Yeah, we'll hope they get that figured out. Hey, I pulled up the United website to see what it says these days, and now on the days we cross through the regular award price and it's a lower price, it says special member pricing, and then a little question mark next to it says exclusively available to you as a valued Mileage Plus Premier member and or United Mileage Plus card member.
So you can't tell what you see.
Mileage.
Yeah.
So you can't
tell which one it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But it used to say card member pricing.
And like on some of these, man, like 15,000 miles is crossed out, and the special member pricing is 14,700, saving you a whopping 300 miles.
Ooh.
So Every little bit helps, but I remember it being a better deal than that in previous years.
I got to tell you, the amount of flights, having searched a bunch over the past handful of weeks for some trips we have coming up, the amount of award flights I've seen on United where I'm getting essentially a penny per point in value is growing to a number that is disturbing to me. On routes like Orlando, Dallas, Vegas, LA, and the disappointing thing about this is these aren't like super expensive flights where it's a $400 one-way ticket and it's 40,000 miles. It's a $180 one-way ticket to Orlando and it's 16,000, 17,000 miles, and that's a really bad value. Again, why I don't want people spending money on United credit cards if they can help it. Transfer the points in when you need them. So if I was a good podcaster, Mr. Kerr, I would have anticipated that you were going to tell us your opera story about Vienna, and then we could have used Phantom of the Opera as our transition to our listener question. But we'll talk a little bit about Phantom Award Space here. Got a text listener question. Hey guys, question for these. I did. Question for the Star Alliance gurus, which I'm guessing that's you. Was booking flights to Zurich on Swiss using Air Canada miles, the old Aeroplan program. Well, when I went to transfer, the availability went away. Jeremiah, insert sad noise here. This same flight is open on United for $88,000. Is it possible to call Air Canada to have them find this availability within Air Canada's mileage system? Mr. Kerr, what say you?
Lucky over at 1 Mile at a Time this week, he actually had an article on why he hypothesized why phantom availability happens. And let me tell you, it's a big bummer when it does. The short answer is airline technology is a little bit behind and making them talk to each other.
A little bit behind.
And making them talk to each other in zeros and ones and then trying to match up fare classes can just cause that unfortunate situation where phantom award space happens. The overall recommendation I give to everybody is call the program and see if they will put the ticket on hold for you first before you will transfer. I do not think Aeroplan offers that service, unfortunately. So in this specific case, if you're not seeing it online, it's always worth a shot to give them a call and tell them what happened. I will tell you from the day job, Aeroplan is one of the programs that just doesn't happen very often. They're aware of the phantom award space problem. So if you call them and say, will you reverse my transfer back to wherever you transferred the points, they will work with you and try and get that to happen, which again, ain't going to happen most places where you call. Once you transfer those points, that's it. But we have had a lot of members in the day job call Aeroplan, and Aeroplan has reached out to us and said, please reverse this person's transfer. The award space they transfer for is no longer there. Can't promise that's going to happen every single time. So rule number 1 is call and try and put a ticket on hold before you do these transfers. Rule number 2 is call an airline agent and have them confirm the space that you're seeing online before you transfer. And then rule number 3 is if everything fails, try and get your transfer reversed. But that's a long and frustrating road. So
it is a long and frustrating road. And I was going to say too, this isn't foolproof, but there are opportunities where you can call the airlines, and in some of the phantom award availability cases, they can get far enough in the booking process themselves without you having the miles in the account that they can tell, oh, this disappeared. It's not 100% foolproof, but they can go further in the process of booking than you can without miles in your account to test if the inventory disappears on them. There's really, to Richard's point, if the inventory is not there, it's not there. So there's really nothing they can do to make the seat available. But the call centers do, in most cases, have the ability to give you a little bit more confidence that it's going to happen when you transfer.
There are some very weird nuances in here that are much less than they used to be, where between some partnerships you could actually get an agent who knew the deal on the phone and be like, hey, will you ping the system and see if they can get a seat that will ping back and say, yes, there's available. I can't remember who that used to be between, but that used to be a little trick that you could do. I think for the most part, all that stuff is gone. But I'll tell you, man, so too, when I put those tickets to Istanbul on hold this morning, I was like, man, before I transfer these things over to Life Miles, I got to call them up and make sure this space is actually there, see if they'll hold the award ticket for me, because you're transferring over and then going through the booking process and then getting the error that it's not there. That's just the worst. That's just the worst. So just go through the extra due diligence you can every time before you transfer. Yep,
I would tend to agree. All right, Mr. Kerr, we have reached the end of the road this week. What do you got on tap for next week? You hopping on any airplanes?
Oh, yeah. Hopping on some fun airplanes, not going to New York City. Headed
what? To crazy talk.
Going to Providenciales, Turks and Caicos with just Mrs. Kerr and I. and we're gonna celebrate
Not
15
me or
years of not taking this Pookie down to. If Ed and I are flying Turks and Caicos together, then although we did fly the British Virgin Islands together, so maybe
we did. That's a story for another day.
Yeah. So very much, it's a huge week, man. I'm not gonna let any spoilers out this week, but I cannot wait to recap that trip the next time we record and see how this, call it a bucket list experience, went for us. So we'll see.
I do want to hear where you stay. I'm looking forward to that for sure. I absolutely have a trip to Vegas. In fact, I'll be gone when this episode drops, but I also have a trip to a destination to be named later, Mr. Kerr, which I am hopeful will be the confirmed destination for this year's Freddie Awards by the time I return.
The return of the Freddies. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yep. So more to come. Stay tuned, Mr. Kerr. It's just between you and I, though.
Stay tuned. And everybody else, listen to this podcast.
All right. Well, folks, thanks again for tuning in with us. Like we said at the top of the show, hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening, including YouTube. We would love that. Leave us a rating, and we love those 5-star reviews and ratings. Those are great because Mr. Kerr is 5 stars all the way, back in the chair, contract dispute settled. But we will have Julian back in July. We're going to be digging into values of points and miles as PointsPath is seeing. I think there's some really interesting stuff there. Can't wait to have him back on. And then I haven't even told Mr. Kerr about this yet, but I've been trying to put together a segment to bring on our buddy Summer, as well as another friend of ours named Leslie from Trips with Tykes, who's a big Disney fan. They both have a lot to say about Disneyland Tokyo, so I was going to try and pick their brains on Disneyland Tokyo. And I know how much Mr. Kerr loves that area of the world, so I think we could have a fun segment with you, me, Summer, and Leslie talking a little Tokyo and a little Disney.
Sounds like a good time to me. I hadn't talked to Leslie in quite a while. I need to catch up with her and see how
you may be talking to her live on the show, because she's got a wedding anniversary coming up too, so she's gone next week. So while you're away on your anniversary, she'll be away on hers, and then we'll try to put the 4 of us together for a little talk on Tokyo, Disney, and all the rest of it. But that's what we got on the docket for the future. Till then, Mr. Kerr, hope you have an incredible anniversary trip with your wife. Can't wait to hear more about Turks and Caicos. Until we upload again, we've got miles to go. Hit it or quit it.
It's not that kind of podcast.